Hey, and welcome to the Wrap Up Live. This is the official Raptors Republic live post-game show where we recap, we dissect, and we have some fun talking about the latest Raptors game. I'm your host, Sahal Abdi. I got Aiden Moss here with me. I've got our producer, Kian Haddad, here with us. And tonight, unfortunately, it is another eulogy. We got the Toronto Raptors, our favorite Toronto Raptors, losing to the LA Clippers, who did have some familiar faces. Norman Powell was shouted out early in the game. Kawhi Leonard returned to town after taking the Detroit Pistons overtime win off. I'm assuming that was load management. And it's very unfortunate. Another loss to the LA Clippers, this time 124 to 113. That brings the Raptors record to 4 games below 500, 15 and 19 on the NBA season. And I always ask you guys this every show. So if you love the Toronto Raptors, do us hardworking individuals at Raptors Republic a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast channel, the Rapcast, wherever you're watching or listening. All right, Aiden. Difficult game. LA Clippers, very, very, very good basketball team, especially when fully healthy. Tyronn Lue was like, you know what? I don't know, Kawhi, if you have to play this Detroit Pistons game, especially when they lost. People forget Pistons lost one of their best players in Cade Cunningham earlier in the season. Kawhi Leonard sat. That game went to overtime. Paul George looked great. They won. They come into Toronto the next day. Very short flight from Detroit to Toronto. And they come out with a win on the second game of a back-to-back versus a Toronto Raptors team. Same story, dominated by a big Aiden and third quarter collapse. What are your initial takes from this game?
It's disheartening always, of course. I think there are a lot of positives to take from this game. Pascal, again, performing like a superstar. It's just one of those games where you feel like everything's kind of going the way you want it to, right? Like there's a lot of driving kicks for wide open shots. Pascal's getting to the rim. Some of our rotation pieces played well, like Flynn. Thad put in some good minutes. We led the Clippers in bench points, really, but it comes down to, and even in the paint, we had more paint points than the Clippers, but really it just comes down to, once again, like shooting disappears. We couldn't force any turnovers and we couldn't dominate the offensive boards. And between those three things, you have a recipe for just a Raptors failure. If you can't either win the 3-point contest or you can't win the possessions contest, if you lose both of those, you're totally hooped, especially a good team like this.
Yeah, very unfortunate. The LA Clippers had 15 offensive rebounds to the Raptors 10, 32 defensive rebounds to the Raptors 29. I don't know. The Raptors still haven't found out a solution, Aiden, for the massive mismatches that happened down low. And I'm going to give Zubac some credit because a lot of Raptors fans are going to look at this guy and say, well, who the hell is this guy? He shouldn't be scoring. I mean, Zubac's a very good center in the NBA, a very good starting center in this league. So the Raptors, like I said, Thad Young, they tried Pascal Siakam. A lot of, I think, the Clippers' success was coming, especially in the third quarter, Aiden, was coming from dissecting the Raptors on those Kawhi Leonard double teams. The Raptors just couldn't rotate fast enough. It was a corner, open three, and then another corner, open three, and then it would get swung, and Zubac is open down low. We saw Paul George drive to the rim, alley-oop to Ivica Zubac. It felt like the Clippers just knew what to do. They just came into the Raptors arena prepared. Norman Powell had an absolutely fantastic game. I mean, is Norman Powell the new Raptors killer? Who knows? I don't know. But 8 for 14 with 22 points in 22 minutes seems like your typical Norman Powell performance off the bench. And this Clippers team is for real, Aiden. Like I said, this team is rarely, especially the last, 2, 3. This is Kawhi Leonard's third year with the Clippers, right? They're rarely healthy. Just generally, you look back at this team, they're rarely fully healthy. And when they are, I think they're one of the best teams in the league, especially when you have guys like Luke Kennard, Norm Powell, Terrence Mann, Nick Batum, all coming off the bench. Amir Coffey only played a minute, and he's a pretty good rotation player in this league, Aiden. So this is a very deep, talented team that the Raptors just didn't have an answer for. I'm not sure where they go from here. I guess you just move on to the next game because it doesn't look like the Raptors really have a solution, at least roster-wise, of how they want to fix this massive hole that seems to be sitting in the center position for them. Where do you go from here, Aiden?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I mean, you kind of have to just roll with the punches on these games. If you're going to hit six
Yeah.
threes, you're frigged. I do think that, and I've seen it a lot over Twitter, and some of the commenters are noting is that the defense feels kind of overplayed. Like they need to kind of think about doing something different. And part of that is acquiring a big that they can rely on in the middle. I don't know. Birch was active tonight. I would have liked to have seen Birch play. I think he was active. And for that very reason that they just kind of need some muscle down low and then win the defensive matchups one-on-one, right? Like OG early on was shutting down Kawhi. I think he was 1 for 4 or 1 for 5. Paul George, you kind of live and die with it. But like, I don't think how many corner threes were hit tonight, right? And it just, especially against a team of the Clippers who are going to hit those shots and they thrive off of perimeter play, right? Like that's how they win ball games. Zubac is almost like a second option to them, right? Like he's not the primary for their team all the time. Sometimes he is. And so if I were moving forward, I would be asking the big question of like, is our schematics working? I'm almost better. I feel more comfortable with our offensive schemes recently than defensive. Like I like that Van Vliet suddenly become a distributor. I like that Scotty's getting aggressive but looking to pass as well. I love that we're running through Pascal and Flynn's looking good. Like there's a lot of good parts about our offense that I'm like quite encouraged by. It's been our defense that's been like totally shite. And there are certain teams where our defense thrives, and then there are certain teams where it just looks real bad. And the Brooklyn Nets and the Clippers are two teams specifically that kind of just like peel our defense apart.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Nick Nurse, you look at games like this where there's those, clear superstars. You talked about the Brooklyn Nets. It was Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. In this game, it's Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. Clear. I mean, when they're healthy, Aiden, is it fair to call them both top 15 players in the game? I think that's a fair statement to make for both players.
PG and Kawhi?
PG and Kawhi, yeah. I think that's
once
very
upon
fair.
a time for Kawhi, but definitely for PG.
Yeah, I think in Kawhi's for his case, I guess you have to see more and just more consistently, just because he's been out and in and out and in, and you just don't know how he's fully going to come back from this ACL injury. So I personally think, I haven't given up on Kawhi's superstar status. I think it's just a matter of time before we realize that, walking into the playoffs, this is still one of the best players in the world. So the Raptors kind of took the strategy of let's stop Kawhi and let the chips fall where they may. I don't know, Aiden. I just feel like all the double teams were something that Nick Nurse kind of talked about. He clearly employed in his strategy, and everyone else made shots. I mean, there were open shots for the rest of the team. Reggie Jackson seemed like he just didn't miss today. He had 20 points. 3 of the 5 starters had 20 points, and none of those were Kawhi Leonard. So. Yeah, exactly. And then you have Norm Powell off the bench who had 22. So very, very difficult and just a confusing and perplexing game to watch in the third quarter. It just felt like the Raptors kept doing the same thing defensively and it wasn't working, and they would go back to it. And it was a lot of Kawhi Leonard at the high post. Tyronn Lue knew it was coming. And Kawhi Leonard, I mean, he's been seeing double teams for the last 6-7 years nonstop.
Yeah.
So he knows exactly what to do.
And he's not even the killer that they have to necessarily be worrying about, right? Like exactly. I almost, especially if you have OG on him, and even Scotty did okay. Like I think I've said this before, like you have a potential defensive player of the year, like just let him cook on the defensive side like he did with Mitchell last game and rely on that, like rest on that, and give your other teammates or let the other teammates kind of like back them up, and do their own thing. I don't understand why we have to overplay our hand.
Yeah. I mean, if we were going up against 2019 Kawhi Leonard, I'd fully understand this strategy. Sure. But I think Nick Nurse's respect for Kawhi Leonard just overshadowed the game. And I think we've both made it clear that at this particular moment, this isn't the same Kawhi Leonard. Not to say he's a negative, a net negative for the Clippers. He still does a ton of great things for them. I still think he can be mentioned as a star in his own right, but is he that same guy who was once mentioned in 2019 as quite literally one of the best players on the planet, top 3, top 5, whatever you want to say? Some people, crowned him the best player after the Raptors won the championship. So is he that player? No, but is he still a player that can have positive production for your team? Absolutely. And I think Nick Nurse walked into this game and said, you know what, Kawhi's coming off of rest, and I'm very afraid of what he can do to our team, even though the Raptors do employ OG Anunoby, who's one of the league's best defenders, point of attack defenders, post defenders. OG Anunoby's done it all this year. And I think the strategy and the tactics that Nick Nurse used maybe could have, I understand starting the game like that, Aiden, but just could have changed maybe midway through third quarter. The double teams, just what are you going to do? Like, if Reggie Jackson and Norm Powell are hitting every single open shot, you have to start doing something different at that point, no?
Yeah, you do. I'm in my head, I'm just kind of thinking about like different like lineup rotations, and I'm looking at the minutes played, and honestly, I'm maybe this is a topic for later, but I'm kind of curious. Once again, I'm just confused by the rotations. Like,
Yeah.
Hernan Gomez plays well for 8 minutes. Or for the starting few minutes, and then he barely plays the rest of the game. Boucher's kind of fallen off. Thad's only playing 10 minutes. Like, I think, you kind of need to find some consistency with these guys and run them. And I feel like they were doing fine with Juancho at center. Like, you have to kind of pick your poison with Zubats and then Kawhi, right? Like, you can't just be trying to counter for both. You have to settle in on one and sacrifice the other. Like, yeah, Zubats was killing us on the boards, but like that's I think we could have managed just that if we were just playing, heads up defense on the with every other matchup, but we weren't. And it was just like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like Nurse is kind of a little at loss right now on what he wants to be doing.
Yeah, I think, Aiden, you may follow Brad on Twitter. He used to do a lot of film, Toronto Raptors film stuff, and I think he mentioned a really good point, which is, Thad Young's been seeing quite a bit of minutes at the 5 this year, and his defensive ability just feels like it's taken a step back. And I don't know if that's really even a Thad problem, because he's an older guy, Aiden. Like, we're not talking about a guy who's 29, 30, 31 years old, 32. Like, he's well into his mid-30s. Wow, that's a nice little entrance we got there. Welcome, Zorar. How are you?
Man, I don't know. Not good.
After that loss?
Not good.
Did you watch the game at all?
Yeah, I watched it. I was stuck in the Buffalo storm and I came back.
Oh, no.
So I'm like recovering from everything. But then I thought like, this game would cheer me up a little bit. You know what I mean? Pick me up a little bit, because the Raptors were like well rested. And you expect them to just like come out and run over a team that I think played in overtime last night.
Yeah,
and like apparently slept like 4 hours, whatever it was, and like they came back and they looked like they looked the fresher team, which was like really shocking. And I don't think this is a great Raps team. I think I predicted 40, 45, 46 wins at the start of the season, and I right now I don't think we're gonna hit that even. So they're even missing my low expectations of this. And at the start of the season, I was like, this 6'9", no center, no point guard experiment, let's give it another year. But now I look around the NBA and I see teams having success with like traditional lineups, and I remind myself, hey, when the Raptors won the title, they had a very, very traditional lineup with the 2 bigs in the middle, and I'm like, how much longer do we have to live with this experiment? Like, has this experiment given us enough data that we can make a decision that it's been off course, or do we need more data to decide whether we can survive without a true starting JV type center and a more traditional point guard that isn't just moving further and further away from the rim to compensate for his lack of other things? I don't know. I'm at a loss, but like, I'll let you finish your point. I'm kind of venting, man. That's all.
Well, just to add on to what you said, I've been speculating the last 2 months, and I don't know if it's a Nick Nurse thing where, I'm sure he's had conversations with the front office, Masai Ujiri, Bobby Webster, and the whole crew of what they want to do with this roster. And I don't know if there's clashing visions. I don't know if maybe Masai wants to make a move and Nick Nurse is like, you know what, I'm fine. Or maybe they both want to make a move and there's nothing out there for the Raptors that's worth trading for, I should say. I think I didn't expect, and this is going to hurt a lot of Raptors fans, but I didn't expect the Raptors to win this game. I think the Clippers came in clearly the better basketball team. Did I expect it to be a competitive game? Absolutely. Did I think the Raptors had a chance to pull this one out? Absolutely. But, considering the circumstances, Zarar, you mentioned that one team's coming off of an overtime win last night. A totally different area code, Detroit, flies over here, does all of that stuff within 24 hours, lands in, gets to the Raptors arena, and they look like the fresher team. And like I said, a lot of people have talked about Zarar the last however many years. The Raptors need a Christmas game. The Raptors need a Christmas game. The Toronto Raptors need a Christmas game, and they got 3 days off. The last time they played was Friday night, the 23rd, versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was a win. Very good win. They had the 24th off, the 25th off, and the 26th off. They're playing tonight on the 27th, and here we are with them looking like the more lethargic basketball team. Aiden, did you expect more from the Raptors after all that rest?
Yeah, of course. And we give all the excuses to the Raptors when they're playing on a back-to-back and they're flying in late, and we're like, oh, it's kind of an expected loss. So, yeah, at home, post 3 days rest against a team on a back-to-back who played 5 quarters of basketball, like there's just zero excuse to not put the pedal to the metal and push the opponent. And I think, they did early on. That's the thing, is that, I like I said, I was saying earlier, Zora, like I feel like they did play a pretty good game. They're like the third quarter, they fall apart, their shooting goes cold, but like they're open looks, like they're doing everything they're supposed to. And so it kind of begs the question of like, is this just one of those like off games, or is this like this is systemically a problem? And to answer like Zerar's rant, I think, I've been a proponent of letting Masai run the 6'9" experiment out to its fullest. But it is possible now that his premonition of where the league is going was actually wrong. And that it wasn't going to like this positionless like game of basketball where everybody's 6'9" and can do everything all at once. It's going somewhere else, which is that it's still kind of archetypical in their positions, but all of those positions are super dynamic and versatile. So it could be that just Masai got this wrong. I don't know.
It might just be that the 6'9" thing is the garnish, not the main ingredient in the cocktail.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at a team like the Boston Celtics, for example, their big is Al Horford, who's given tons of bigs around the league issues. And he's not some big 7'1" or 7'2", Goliath sitting in the paint, but he is a guy that's, I believe he's 6'10", around there. And he gives players issues. A lot of times it's because of his ability to move, his mobility defensively. And I think when Nick Nurse kind of evaluated this roster, he imagined guys in, a role similar to that. But the fact of the matter is, Gerard's right. I mean, the last time the Raptors had success in the playoffs was, 2019? We're talking elongated success, 2019, when they won the championship. And they had guys like Marc Gasol, and they had Serge Ibaka coming off the bench, and they had these bigger, stronger, taller guys to protect the paint. And I think when you rely on guys like Thaddeus Young in roles like that, it's not going to, cut it. And you rely on guys like Khem Birch, it's not going to cut it, right?
The counter to that is that the guys who they anticipate to be the Al Horford or there are a few people that are Al Horford types. He's in a Hall of Famer, but who they're anticipating to be Time Lord and Al Horford, what was Precious, who's not ready and got injured, and it could be Scotty in some like shape or form, but is not ready. So like, I'm not saying that it's a failed experiment. I think Boston's a great example, although Marcus Smart is probably the exception here, where he can guard all 5 positions despite being 6'4", whereas Freddie can't. But other than that, it's a good example. And I just think that like we this 6'9" experiment needs to work when all 5 guys are at the height of their powers on both ends, and we're not right now.
And like the I don't know, systemic seems like a very, very strong word, and maybe because that sort of implies that it's like there's no recovery point if it's systemic. Like you got to do a complete overhaul. And I don't know if it's that severe, but I do look at like how teams are having success in the NBA, and whether you believe in the 6'9" or a big man or whatever thing at all. I think you can definitely agree that 3-point shooting is a absolute prerequisite to have any sort of meaningful success in this league, especially in the postseason. I think you guys agree with that. We cannot be what is it right now? Like bottom 2 3-point shooting team at 32.9%. That's what we shoot. That's 29th in the league. Only the Hornets are behind us. I just don't see how you can have success like that. Like which players right now are underperforming from 3-point that this is happening? I'm sure Masai didn't expect for the Raptors to be this bad at 3-point shooting, which means that somebody on the team is severely underperforming from 3. Who are those people? Because I don't see anybody I don't see anybody.
I think it's OG and Fred, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's the thing, is that if you individually go through the players, it's like, is Freddie an elite 3-point shooter? Yes. Like I would say yes. Is OG? Yeah. He's close. Is Gary? He's close. Like they're not bad 3-point shooters. They've been shooting horribly, but they're like, OG's come around in the last little while.
I'll give you Fred. I don't know if I would call elite. We throw the word elite around a little too much, I think. Fred, you can convince me. Yes, he's shown over. But OG and Gary being like elite, and I mean like elite, like clutch 3-point shooting, good fourth quarter shooting consistently. I don't know if they're elite, but that's kind of more my point, is that everybody on the roster is sort of shooting where I would expect them to shoot, kind of. Like who is like severely underperforming from 3?
I think what you're seeing, Zarar, is like minimal. Is I don't want to say minimal, maybe a little bit more than minimal, moderate regression, but it's across the board. It's not massive regression we're seeing from Fred shooting the 3 ball or Gary or OG. I think it's moderate enough where, and then you're also not getting anything from the bench. I mean, Chris Boucher, I'm sure, is shooting under 35% this year. There's Delano Banton. I mean, I'm not sure. Thaddeus Young, I know, is probably under 30. And then who else? Who else is there for you off the bench? I mean, Champagny, Dallin Jr.
Their best shooter on the team this year is their best shooter on the team this year is Malachi Flynn. But OG's a career 37% shooter. Gary's a 38% shooter, and he's a 38% shooter career from 3. So
I just looked it up. It's Fred who's at 33%, which is below his career. Siakam's at 35, which I think is kind of where you expect him to be.
Yeah,
I don't think he's not going to be a 40% guy. Maybe he will, but you don't expect that. OG's at 35, which is what you would expect him to be. Gary's at 33.9, so 34, little bit less than what he's expected to be. And then you have like absolutely nothing from Scotty at 30, Boucher at 27. Precious hasn't played much. Malachi Flynn's at 46. That's good. Otto Porter hasn't played much. So it's like it's even the free agent guys that they had signed hoping to alleviate that problem hasn't really gone their way. So where are we at? Rebounding, we're better this year. So kudos to Masai for that. But again, stepping back, you look at 3-point shooting and rebounding. Those have been our problems for like 3 straight years since 2019, basically, and they have remained unaddressed. And people who are like criticizing Nick Nurse for this, I honestly don't know what Nurse can Nurse do better in his offense? No doubt. I think he can do a bunch of things better.
I think they have done better recently too.
Yeah. So I'm not really criticizing Nurse at all. I think he's doing sort of what he can with the lineup, but I do question the composition of this roster, and really think that it's sort of flawed.
Yeah. I mean, I do contend with the fact that I think there is a world where they are shooting better. And it's a good point. Like Otto Porter Jr. was a big part of that plan. And Juancho's done somewhat a good job, but he's not Otto Porter Jr. And then Boucher's fallen off a cliff too. And I think they expected more from him this year as well. So I think in the aggregate, there's been a lot of disappointment from individual players. And OG is one of them. I think for a good stretch there, his shooting fell right off, and his defense was spectacular. But And then Freddie fell right off for a while, and Gary fell right off. Like, I mean, it does beg the question: is this just what you're going to get from these guys,
No.
or is this like a big spell? And in which case,
I'll tell you. I think I want to talk about that. I think it's a lot about how this offense is generally initiated. I don't see our guys doing a lot of slashing. I see a lot of
Right.
offense originating from stop positions. Like people, Scotty Barnes is a great example of this. Like it's very rare that Scotty catches the ball in stride in a cut, like as he's cutting going towards the rim.
Yeah.
Scotty usually catches the ball kind of higher than the elbow and does some sort of a move or passes it off. But I can't even tell you in this game that he caught the ball in stride and went to the rim in a half court situation. We just don't do that. Like we don't have that that ability, it seems, or I don't know if it's by design or whatever it is, but we don't necessarily generate. We don't utilize the length and of stride we have in our half court setting, because we always, when we pass, we even on kickouts, we sort of catch the ball and take our time with it. We're not really quick on the action. And when you do that, that just gives the defense more time to settle down and contest your 3-point shots better. So I think more slashing is definitely one of the keys that I would like to see the Raptors do a little more of, because they have the personnel. OG, to me, should be catching the ball 50% of the time in like slashing positions instead of stopping and then like weighing what he's going to do next using his pull-up game.
Yeah. The only, I think, in theory, I think Zarar that works. I think the only issue with that is that if you do that, if you slash a lot more, full break, full acceleration to the basket, OG, whoever it is, right? OG, Pascal Siakam, because Siakam's going to do it regardless. He knows the double teams he's going to see. I think the problem with that is that when teams start packing the paint and the ball starts getting kicked out, are the shots going to be made? And I think that's the difficult thing for the Raptors. And I don't know if they can get beyond that, because now, where are we? We're at the end of December, right? We're approaching January, we're approaching 2023. And I think the Raptors are still seeing the same issues, not just offensively, but defensively as well. It's the same, problems and the same results that they're getting game in, game out. We talked about defensively, they cannot stop bigs around the paint. Zubac had 10. I'm just seeing it now. He had 10 offensive rebounds himself in this game. That's insane. So, and then from the offensive standpoint, can the Raptors hit a three? Is adding 1 or 2 players to the rotation going to solve that, or replacing 1 or 2 players in the rotation going to solve that? I don't know. And I don't know if the Raptors, I'm sure they know what the issues are stylistically with this roster, but can they fix everything in one trade deadline? I'm not 100% sure. You would hope that, shooting and some size is added to this team, but you are right, those are right. I think theoretically a lot more slashing would work with the players you have, OG Pascal, and then Fred who's been, we've talked about it. I think myself and Oren were talking about it the last time we were on. Fred's almost flipped his game this year, where he's not kind of producing only at an efficient rate from beyond the 3-point line. He's producing pretty efficiently within the 3-point line as well, near the paint, which used to be kind of his struggles all season. I was in and out of this game, guys. I'm just realizing now, Fred VanVleet played 23 minutes. Was that an injury thing?
He hurt his back.
Yeah, he's got back issues.
Okay.
But what are you going to do about that? I don't know, Aiden. You want to chime in on? So somebody made a great point here. We're talking about here. Let me just put this up. If something hasn't been addressed for 3 years and the composition of the roster is not changing, would you not call that systemic? That's a fair point. If it's lasted 3 years, it's not. Maybe it's benign, but it's not. But it's definitely systemic.
Yeah, I mean they tried to replace Gasol with Baines, and that was a failed experiment. And I think again, I think we, at the end of the season, it was laughable, right? But at the beginning of the season, he had a great year in Phoenix. He was genuinely supposed to be like a big. So there's that, and then last year was truly the first year where there was the experiment was in full execution, right? Like they had no big purposely, and they ran Scotty and Precious as the bigs, more or less. So this is only really year 2 to me, and Precious has been injured, so that's a big part of it. I think I think probably our rebounding was always going to be bad, but I don't think they expected it to be this poor.
Well, but Precious was quite poor to start the season. It's not like he was doing.
Oh
great.
yeah, he's had a terrible year. But I think they were hoping that he would grow too. And the first game of the season, Scotty was our starting center. I think they expected this to be a collective effort, and that Scotty was going to be this guy, this 6'10" big long dude that could swallow boards up.
Yeah,
I think.
And also, like, I think people, talking about, like, yeah, we shouldn't start Koloko and all that. And yeah, Koloko probably is too young to start on a team that requires so much of a big man because they have such little depth there. I totally get that point of view. The guy has done quite amazing though overall as a rookie. Yeah, he's had some bad games here and there. He looks out of touch. But for a rookie thrown into kind of the wild on a team with like little depth and really not great veterans, like sometimes we forget that Kem Birch isn't necessarily a veteran. Like, yeah, he's been in the league for a while, but it's not like he's an accomplished player at his position. He was in Orlando before this, so it's not like he has years of playoff experience where he can kind of coach the other bigs into what to look out for. He's more or less a journeyman who I think a lot of our fan base has sort of elevated expectations of for some reason, even though the guy really hasn't done a tremendous amount in his career. So that's the guy. That's the guy who is like kind of mentoring Koloko. It's not like you have a vet in there. So you're kind of, even our young big men are sort of on their own in terms of like learning from their peers' experiences.
I was gonna say you forgot about Jamal McGlure.
I mean, on paper, Zarar, I could kind of see why people are clamoring for Kem Birch.
Sorry, can I? Jamal McGlure does not play.
No, I know.
He's just there for the
you could have
hook shots.
I don't know. I don't think that's a valid retort to that point.
Yeah, and I had people respond to me on Twitter and mention Kem Birch. Why isn't he entering the game? And I think on paper, people look at him and go, "This is one of the taller guys on the team. He has some size. He has he has a very strong frame.
He's smart.
When his knees are working, he can protect the rim pretty decently. He can elevate a little bit when his knees are working. I don't know if his knees have been working the last couple seasons, but I think people are almost running out of ideas with this Raptors team and how to solve this issue. And I think Kem Birch is just another thing that fans are just grasping onto. When I think, like you said, Zarar, he hasn't really proven anything. Remember, you said he was playing on Orlando. He was barely playing on Orlando. Like, we're talking about playing on one of the worst teams in the league the last 3, 4, 5 seasons, and he wasn't even, a consistent role player on that team. So did he grow since then? Sure. But I think to say, Kem Birch should come in and he'd solve whatever's ailing the Raptors, I don't know if that's a
my concern is that let me just say that. I mean, these guys have won championships, and I've gone on the record saying after you win a title, you should have 5 years to do whatever the F you want to do. Like, you want to go try whatever experiment you do, go do it, man. You've earned the right because you gave us a title. And sometimes you forget, man, the Raptors have a freaking title, man. That was unthinkable not too long ago. And the fact that we have a championship sitting at Scotiabank Center is in itself something quite special to me. But my concern with this plan is that we might have some sort of escalation of commitment bias here, where we really want this plan to succeed and we'll throw a lot of time and resources on it, even though there's already enough data that says this may not be what will win you games in this league, especially because the rest of the league isn't really playing by the same rules. They're playing by a different set of, their standards are different. Their strategies appear to be different. I can't think of any team in the league, any successful team in the league that has adopted a similar strategy like the Raptors. So they're swimming against the grain here. So unless this is this might be successful if we're like a couple of years ahead of what everybody else is eventually going to do. And maybe when this experiment was started, that's what Masai thought. The league,
I think so.
And we're just ahead of the game. But we zigged and everybody else zagged. And now we're wondering, should we have zigged at all? Or should we go back to zagging?
Can we go back to zagging? Exactly. Let's do a quick break, guys, and we'll talk about one of our partners and sponsors of the show, and that is Manscaped. And I think people know by now Manscaped is one of the best men's grooming companies out there. If we talk about their new Lawnmower 4.0, it has skin safe technology. And I mean, I can officially say I've used it. It's great. I've used their nose trimmer as well. That's fantastic. Everything. I've used just about everything. I just ordered, I made another order. I got one of their
No way.
body scrubbers. Yeah, I got one of their body scrubbers. So I'm excited for that as well. There's a lot. So we're not just talking about, electric shavers, guys. You can even get, I mean, if you're a razor person, you like to hold that razor, you can even order a razor as well. But I prefer the Manscaped lawnmower. I think Aiden and Keon can say the same. It is trusted by over 2 million men worldwide. That's over 4 million balls. Do not make it awkward. So you can join us and use all the right tools for the job, because when it comes to your balls, guys, you do not want to take any chances. Don't waste your money on any of that dollar store stuff. Trust us, it's just not worth it. Also, I'm skin sensitive, so I use some of their skincare products as well. Christmas has passed, guys. New Year's Eve is on the way, right? So if you missed some presents, I don't know. Maybe you couldn't make it. Maybe your presents still haven't made it to your loved ones or your friends. Order them Manscaped. Why not?
It also
Manscaped. Yeah.
It's also like maybe Scotty should use it because it'll help with his slashing.
Oh yeah.
Maybe it's like preventing him from making those strides. Maybe this is what he needs to like just finally get into that groove. You know what I mean? Maybe he's like trying to run, but like something's getting stuck down there. I don't know. But this might help. I don't know.
Could be a little friction down there. Go to manscaped.com. Check out all their new items, especially the Lawnmower 4.0, as well as their incredible luxury grooming bundles. And if you do get a bundle, I've said this before, you do get a free travel bag and anti-chafing boxers, which I am currently wearing right now and are absolutely fantastic. But no matter what you purchase, you can receive free shipping with our code on WrapUp. Our code is WrapUp, RAPUP. And yeah, you get 20% off and free shipping on your entire order. WrapUp.
Okay. Whew. Okay.
That was good, right?
Everybody go buy it now.
We gotta tighten that up, I think, next time.
Okay.
We'll work on that one.
RAPUP WrapUp. Enjoy, everybody. And that was the short version, guys. I don't know if you guys have ever seen me do this solo. I go through the entire 1.5-minute, 2-minute ad read, and the people love it. So
yeah. Okay.
What else we got?
What's next? What are we talking about next? Are we talking about what's next here?
I wanted to talk about a guy who has been struggling for, I think you could say the last month or so, and that's Chris Boucher. He only got 9 minutes in this game. He was a -6, zeros across the board, except for obviously his rebounding. He did get secure 3 rebounds in the game.
DNP against Cleveland.
Are we all on board that Chris Boucher maybe doesn't deserve minutes at this point because he hasn't been playing that great? But at this point, I think Nick Nurse, like I've said it before, he's running out of ideas. I think you just throw Chris Boucher out there for 15-20 minutes and just hope that his struggles wear off, because I feel like the Raptors are just a much, much better team when they have a consistent Chris Boucher coming off the bench, right?
Well, the Raptors are better when they have good offensive rebounding and good three-point shooting on the floor. And Chris Boucher, when he's good, brings both to some degree. So we can't, like, if you're a team that is not where it needs to be and you're looking at Chris Boucher as the guy that's underperforming, that sounds like a bigger problem than just Chris Boucher. So yeah, we can talk about Chris Boucher. Chris Boucher is he's, after a while, people know who your game is, man. They know you're a 3-point shooter who likes to like crank it up, and then they know how to keep you off the offensive rebounds. If coaches, and Lou is as much as it hurts me saying it, he is a pretty damn good coach. And so a guy like him can easily tell his players, Chris Boucher likes to do X, Y, and Z, and you got to do A, B, and C to keep him off. And his players are listening to him. Chris Boucher can be easily sort of shut down. Chris Boucher is effective against teams that are not prepared for Chris Boucher. But if a team is prepared and understands what Chris Boucher's limited skills are, he can be game planned for.
I kind of wonder if I was thinking about this at the beginning of the pod, like maybe he needs to be put in the starting lineup. Like I think the spark plug Boucher idea was a good one, but to Zerar's point, like coming in with rotation players, it's a little bit easier to like prepare for. And then also, when you're dealing with 4 offensively minded guys being the starting lineup, it's easier for Boucher to get there and crash the boards. He's also like a good defender positionally. I think he understands the Raptors defense. It's why they re-signed him and kept him. And maybe, it just gives us another set of long arms and height on the back line that we can kind of use him like a Time Lord situation. So I don't know. Maybe it's time to switch him up a little bit, but he's been really bad lately. And yeah, like his antics too, like offensive rebounding and then throwing it back up and claiming to get fouled and nothing's happening. Like it's starting to become a little bit old. And I think Nurse got really tired of it.
Yeah. I think Nurse's rotation today kind of says what he thinks about the center position. Like I thought, with Birch, Koloko, and if you want to throw in Boucher in there playing a combined 21 minutes, that says lack of confidence.
I think Koloko should be done. I think so Brandon was tweeting, I was like, he needs to go to the G League and just go get reps now. Like I think not playing Birch tonight was another mistake. Like Birch is the one guy that you can put. I know we're getting off topic of Boucher, but I just want to say about Birch, like, he's the one guy that can muscle up. He understands what to do positionally. You can rely on him to just be on his own and do his best and try and defensive rebound. So yeah, I'm a little bit over Koloko.
Yeah, I'd say that's a great point, Aiden. Like we had Zubac there today. If you had to pick one guy on the Raptors roster who can go somewhat toe-to-toe with Zubac just to contain him on the glass, who would you guys pick?
Yeah.
Like it's the answer is so obvious that it doesn't even need to be said. Yet we have our closest matchup to that guy playing like what did he play again? Birch, three minutes. And the guy had 16 rebounds. And I'm looking at Zubac as like his last few games. Like 16 he hasn't had 16 rebounds since let me check here the date. Like not for a while. Like if you look at his game log, like he hasn't had 16 rebounds this entire month. So he put up a month high rebounding total against the Raptors.
I wonder when was the last time he had 10 offensive rebounds as well. That has to be a first.
I'll do some research while you guys talk.
Yeah. So, and that was, you answered my second question as well, Aiden, because I was going to say, what changes can you make to the starting lineup? Because you have Juancho Hernan-Gomez, who's kind of locked down that position in the starting lineup so far, I guess temporarily for Nick Nurse and the Raptors. And now I think you try something new. And I kind of feel awful for Nick because, you go into the game and you're leading 29-27 after the first quarter. So, I mean, starting lineup has to be doing something right at that point against a very good Clippers team. And then you're coming back out, with the starters to start the second half and everything just implodes. And I don't know if, that's just blaming one player or what it is, but I think you do need a little bit more balance. And I think this may be the one time where Nick Nurse says, you know what, Chris, you're going to have to actually start, going back to, I don't know if Chris Boucher's, consistently starting games ever for the Raptors. Maybe going back to the Tampa season. I feel like everyone was injured during that season, but
I don't understand this rationale, Sahal, of like promoting somebody who is underperforming into the starting lineup.
Yeah,
well,
it's a show. I don't get what lever you're trying to pull. Is it just like a change of scenery?
It's confidence. It's a show of loyalty. It's like you are, and Nick Nurse has done the opposite, and in the past that has encouraged Boucher. Like he got benched early last year, and he came back with a vengeance. So maybe he's hoping to do the same this year. But I think the levers are A, showing a sign of confidence, and B, hoping that there's some kind of chemistry or like catalyst that happens, throwing him in with guys who can get him the ball in positions to score. I also hope that they're telling him to stop chucking corner threes all day.
Yeah. And I do think Chris Boucher, when you look up and down at the Raptors roster, he's one of the most active guys around the glass as well. So coming off of a game like this, maybe you just do need someone to battle a little bit around the glass, because I think it's unfair to look at this team and go, you know what, Pascal Siakam, you're doing absolutely everything for us offensively, but now you got to go down there underneath the rim and, knock someone's head off to grab a rebound. I think it's just unfair. Chris Boucher is one of those guys that coming off of the bench, he's getting 3, 4, 5 offensive rebounds in the span of 15, 20 minutes. And, no one bats an eye because that's just the Chris Boucher people expect. But I don't know. I think, it's just a confidence booster, Zarar. That's part of the reason why I asked the question, because it comes down to, does Chris Boucher deserve it? Right? Or do you look at it from the other perspective where you just need a change, right? You just need some sort of change that maybe fuels what you have, because the third quarter, it seems like you're just seeing the same story with the Raptors beyond the roster issues. It's the same third quarter collapse. It's the same fourth quarter. Everyone's calling it a fake comeback now at the end of the fourth, where the Raptors are down 15-20 and they close it to 8 or 6, and then they just end up losing the game. So I feel like it's just the same story over and over and over again for the Raptors, right?
Yeah, I got your answer for last time. He's had more than 10 offensive rebounds once this year, and that was against that monster game against Indiana. He had like 29 rebounds or something. So he had 12 in that game. Other than that, this is his best offensive rebounding game. Yeah. And hey, to your point about the fake comeback, this year, after many years, I started watching the Raptors feed again. Because Blake Murphy, our friend, is on the pre-games on Sportsnet sometimes. So I tune in just to check him out, see what he's doing, see what he's wearing, see what he's saying. By the way, Blake should really be the color commentator for the Raptors. If anybody is, let's start the Blake for color commentator position.
We're a little biased here at Raptors Republic, but we're
no bias whatsoever. This has nothing to do with that. This has everything to do with the fact that he probably would be quite good in that position. Talented. Certainly better than what we got going there right now. But that's not why. So that's why I've been watching more Raptors broadcasts this year, because I usually watch the opposite feed. But man, I am being reminded why I don't usually watch the Raptors feed, because oh my God, the homerism and the freaking polishing the turd that happens on Raptors broadcast when the team is losing and Devlin is just making excuse after excuse, back to back, contact, no call. Like, just call the game, man. If the team sucks, it's okay to say they're struggling. Nobody's going to turn off their TV and stop becoming a Raptor fan. Don't worry about it. Like, we're all here for the long term. You don't have to worry about us flipping. Just call the game. Like, if somebody makes a bad shot, say it's a bad shot. Don't make an excuse for them. You don't have to do that. We're here for the long run. That's it. Second rant over.
Nice. We needed 2 at least. I mean, the over-under was set at 1.5 for you, Zarar, so we got the over, which is nice. Yes, Blake Murphy definitely does use Manscaped. He does. And I'm going to stop because I think I've talked about Manscaped enough. Zarar and Aiden are going to lose their minds soon. The Raptors do fall to 15-19. We didn't speak about Can-Am Tax yet, but if you haven't, you've been watching the show, I'm assuming, for years now. We've been talking about Can-Am Tax for years now. You can see it at the top right of the screen. You could call them at 416-243-2912. They are our long-term supporter here at Raptors Republic, and particularly at the wrap-up. So we love Can-Am Tax. Getting into Can-Am Tax, Aiden, who is your taxman?
No, I'm going to lateral list to Zarar just because it's so lovely to have him here. And in this disgruntled mood, who knows what we're going to get?
I'm not disgruntled. Okay, all right. What was it? The player of the game here, the Can-Am Tax? Okay.
Yeah. Which player impressed you the most?
Impressed. I mean, this is the not Pascal Siakam award, basically?
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but we may have to.
Desperate measures.
Can we call it the not Pascal Siakam award?
we may have to.
Who impressed me? Like, I don't know, man. I mean, Barnes, I guess. He had a better game than he's had of late. A little bit more confidence.
Gary shot pretty well.
Like, yeah, he's making a bit of a comeback offensively, at least. Defensively, he's still sort of disappointing to me. The Raptors, like, there's a play today where, or several plays today where, when the other team gets the ball, like it falls to Paul George or somebody, and they kind of like waltz their way through the defense for a dunk. Like, no play annoys me more than when that happens, because that tells me all 5 guys fell asleep, all of them. And I hate it even more when there's not an immediate timeout called after it, because that says, hey, that's just part of the game. How do you let the guy who And this is, remember, this is not like one of those, like a guy who just caught the ball and like zipped it to somebody else and had a fast break, or like somebody speedy like Shai or Shea caught the ball and went out. It's like Paul George getting the rebound, casually dribbling his way through, crossover or two at midcourt, another one at 3-point line, dunk. What the hell is that? That's how is that a good defensive team which allows that 2 or 3 times a game? So that's the kind of stuff that bugs me about Scotty, because he's sort of complicit in those sorts of plays. I know this is a Scotty positive.
So you are giving it to Scotty?
I know I am giving it to Scotty. I am giving it to Scotty, but also reminding me of what Scotty kind of did at times.
Okay,
for what it's worth, I would have given it to Malachi.
Yeah, I was gonna say Malachi played, a solid game considering what we've seen from him this season, or the lack of what we've seen. I think due to Nick Nurse more than anything from Malachi Flynn. Before we do leave, we haven't done this yet, I think, on this show, but I want to redirect everyone to an event that is taking place on February 7th. It is a Raptors Republic event that's taking place at, I believe it's called Rivoli, Zarar, if I'm not mistaken. Tuesday.
Yes,
Tuesday, February 7th. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on February 7th at Rivoli, Toronto. I think you're going to be there, Sahal.
I am going to be there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a bunch of rappers. So Samson Folk, Lewis, former Raptors, Katie Heindel, a bunch of other people are going to be there. Lewis, of course. Yeah. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a live podcast. Tickets are like $20. Like there's a free drink in there with that, and come hang out on February 7th, which is 2 days before the trade deadline. So there's going to be lots to talk about. I wish I had a graphic to show up here to promote this thing. But yeah, February 7th, go to raptorspublic.com. There's like a link there. Buy the ticket, get in. I'll be there. Let's talk some Raptors basketball, meet fellow diehard Raptor fans. We can talk all you want about Malachi Flynn and who should be the taxman of the game at the event.
And then I'll host a wrap-up show afterwards so we can critique everybody who appeared in the show.
Yeah, we can do that. So visit raptorsrepublic.com. You guys will see the pop-up. I just saw it myself. You guys can buy tickets at that link if you visit raptorsrepublic.com. It should be fun. I'm super excited. Zarar mentioned, some of the people that are going to be there. Oren from this show is going to be there. Hopefully we get a couple other people. I know Esfandier as well, who's formerly of Raptors Republic, is going to be there. So it's good to see S in the building. It's going to be super fun. I know it's on a Tuesday night, guys, but we're going to talk Raptors. Bring that entire, argument you've been having in the live chat of Wrap Up and bring it on Tuesday, February 7th at Rivoli in Toronto. It should be so much fun.
Here it is. I got it. I got it. There it is. I got it. There it is. Beautiful. There it is. $20 on a bunch of people there. Oh, by the way, if you're into the 905, and you should be, Andrew Damelin is going to be there, and like preeminent Raptors Republic reporter for the Raptors 905, who also suck, by the way. So there's not much solace there.
Yeah, it's the truth. So, hopefully you guys can meet us there, and we will spend maybe the next few shows at Wrap Up talking about what's happening at Rivoli on Tuesday, February 7th. So it should be fun. And I'm sorry, guys, this is coming on a Tuesday night. That's unfortunately a loss to the Los Angeles Clippers. We're going to wrap it up here. Before you guys leave us, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel as well as our podcast channel, the Rapcast. Tonight, your Raptors were defeated by the LA Clippers 124-113, and that brings the Raptors record to 15-19 on the season. Live show produced by our friend in the background, Keon Haddad. So we want to say thank you for joining us on behalf of myself, Zarar, and Aiden. That's going to do it for us. I believe the next game is Thursday night versus the Memphis Grizzlies, who currently sit at 20 wins and 12 losses. We loved having you guys. We loved having each and every one of you join us, especially the ones that spoke in the live chat as well. How
about a prediction? How about a prediction for Memphis?
I'm gonna go with the loss. I'm gonna go with the loss. I'm sorry. That's what I'm going with. Aiden, what about you?
I'm taking the win, baby.
All right. There's the eternal optimist. All right. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.